Alright, what's going on, dudes, and welcome back to Minecraft, where this time we'll be checking out the Invisible Blocks mod. Think of it basically like barrier blocks, except it comes in a whole bunch of different varieties, so you can do some cool stuff with it. Anyway, let's get into things. So first and foremost, before you work with any of the invisible blocks, you're probably going to want to make yourself some goggles of vision. Crafting recipe for those is a couple of iron ingots, a couple pieces of glass, and some leather. And this will allow you to actually see what you're doing when you're working with the invisible blocks. Otherwise, well, it's probably going to be a little bit tough to see because they're, well, invisible and all. So as I'm going through this, I'll be wearing the goggles of vision, but I might toggle them off occasionally just so you can see what things look like with and without them. Anyway, so first and foremost, solid invisible block. These are basically just like a barrier block in 1.8. The mod's for 1.7, so that's what I'm in at the moment. So, I mean, if you do like playing in 1.7, then you get the barrier block functionality here, essentially. Crafting recipe for these is a few pieces of wool sandwiched in between some glass, and then, obviously, if we take off the goggles of vision, they're going to go invisible, and it's just a barrier block, basically. Can't walk through it, and it is what it is. An invisible wall to prevent us from getting to the other side. And you also can't see the outline of the blocks either if you're not wearing the goggles. So that's it for the solid blocks. Next up, we've got they're called the regular invisible blocks, just invisible blocks, but I don't know, maybe the pass-throughable invisible blocks or something. The crafting recipe for these is just the dies sandwiched in between the pieces of glass, and these ones you can actually walk through. So this is different from the barrier blocks because you can't walk through those, and it's pretty useful because it allows you to, well, let's take these off, have like floating torches, floating rail tracks, floating redstone, things along those lines that you can't actually do with the barrier blocks if you want to be able to like walk under and jump through and not be hitting your head on something. So pretty nifty, I think. We would be able to ride a minecart on top of this if we wanted to. Can't walk on top of it. I was standing on a ladder there for a second. That's how I was able to stay up. But it allows you to do a whole bunch of nifty stuff that you couldn't necessarily otherwise do with the barriers. Hooray for floating torches and floating tracks and floating redstone and all that good stuff. All right, so moving along from there, we've got the Invisilite. So it's basically like one of these invisible blocks, except it emits light. So the crafting recipe is one of the invisible blocks combined with a piece of glowstone, and then you get this thing. So as you'll notice, if I walk on in here and close it up behind me, it's still light. Oh man, how did that happen? It's crazy. That's because there's an Invisilite. You can see on the top, it's kind of giving it away. But if we put our goggles on, here we go, we have an Invisilite sitting in the corner there, and it's illuminating the room, and if we take off the goggles, then you can't really tell it's there except for like a slightly increased shadow kind of over in that area, but you know, if you're not paying attention to it, you don't really notice. And you can walk through it, again, same as the invisible blocks, doesn't get in the way, so if you're in adventure mode or something, well, you're not going to have any issues with it, so pretty cool stuff. Anyway, and then if I break it, all of a sudden it's nice and dark. Put it down again, and good to go. Alright, anyway, moving right along from here, we can go into the Invisi Trapper. Lots of interesting names for these things. This one, it's basically a hybrid in between the solid invisible block and the regular pass-throughable invisible block. And good thing there's construction going on outside. Hopefully you can't hear that too loudly. So the way this one works is that it starts off in solid form when no redstone current is applied, but as soon as you apply a redstone signal to it, it turns green and you're able to pass on through. But you know, if you don't have a if for example there's no redstone on the other side here and you have no way out, then you're kind of trapped, hence the name. But you can also use it to create like secret doorways and whatnot, whereas if I take this off, I have to know, okay, well, I walk up here, and then if I can line up the button correctly, which is easier said than done. Hold on. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm not even lined up. Okay, wait. Try again. Okay, if I go here and then line up the button properly, now I can walk through. Whereas otherwise, I can't. Because, well, it's invisible. And you probably hear the sounds of pig's feet, so I'm going to turn down the friendly creatures so that that's not annoying. Anyway, so let's put the goggles back on. The crafting recipe for this is a little bit trickier. Well, it requires more resources. So 6 of the invisible blocks plus 2 of the solid invisible blocks plus a trapdoor gives you the Invisi Trapper. And then next up, as you can see, we've also got the Invisi button and the Invisi Plate. And those crafting recipes are a invisible block, just put in your crafting table. And then we've also got the Invisi Plate, which is just 2 invisible blocks in the crafting table. And emits a redstone signal while also being, well, invisible. Same with the button. Got it first try. Yes. So successful. Okay. Cool beans. So let's put this one back on. And next up, we've got the Invisi Shield. So the way this one works is for a human, it's the same as the regular pass-throughable invisible block, except for mobs, it prevents them from being able to go through to the other side. So the way you make this is just combining the solid and the not solid invisible blocks. You get a couple in return, and you place it down and use it as a mob pen, if you wish. So we've got all these pigs standing here, and how are they staying put? Well, I mean, you can kind of see the shadows on the ground. So, but if not for that, it kind of looks like they're just really confused, and they're all huddling together for warmth or something. But yeah, they're all trapped by the Invisi Shield. So that's that. But I can run through again. I can tease all the pigs and be like, "Hey, look at me! I can go through the walls of your captivity, but you can't. How does it feel? How does it feel?" And then I can accidentally do that, and glad I didn't destroy one of the blocks. But yeah, so there we go. Invisible Shield. Looked like one of the particles I left behind was the tears of the pigs who were like, "No, I can't get out. What are you doing to me?" All right, and then last but not least, we've got a few miscellaneous ones over here. So Invisi Stairs, which crafting recipe is just a bunch of solid invisible blocks because, well, they're solid. You can't pass through them. What would be the point if you could pass through the invisible stairs? It wouldn't really accomplish much as far as being stairs. We've also got the Invisi Door. Crafting recipe for that is a couple of solid invisible blocks, and you can just toggle it open like you would a normal door, except it also, interestingly enough, allows you to place down buttons on it. So it only works with the invisible button, as far as I'm aware, but you can do that too. I mean, either way, you're right-clicking the door, but, you know, if you prefer a little bit of variety in your life, then there you go. And then finally, we've got the really, really fancy pink and blue looking invisible fences and invisible fence gate, the crafting recipes for which is some solid invisible blocks. And as you would probably guess, we've also got some more solid invisible blocks for the Invisi Fence. And let me just do a quick time set day here. So then if we take off the goggles once more, hey, all of a sudden everything disappears, but we still can't walk through unless we right click. Lets us through, so you can make invisible pens and whatnot, have invisible doors and your invisible steps. So someone who is none the wiser would be like, how do I get up there? I can't get up there in adventure mode. Oh, but wait, if I just walk, it's magical and things happen. And then I can open the door, and I walk through the door, close the door behind me invisibly, and then open the fence gate. And then, so you know, you just got to sort of memorize all the paths that you want to take, unless you're using the goggles, obviously. So yeah, anyway, on that note, that is basically it for the Invisible Blocks mod. Pretty fancy stuff. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, a rating would be super very much appreciated. But on that note, if you're interested in checking out more about the mod, check the link in the description. And thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.